Look at problem 20 on page 102. And we're asked to graph y equals -1/2 x plus 2. Yeah, I'm going to put it in. So in y equals, so we have in parentheses that there is a negative. Yes. Yes. Negative, parentheses, 1 divided by 2, x, and then plus 2. What type of equation is it? Excellent. It's a linear equation. Linear equation. So what do you expect the graph to be? A straight line, right? A line. Good. So here's how we adjust the viewing window if you want to. Let's say the viewing window is standard. So zoom standard is number 6, which gives us a viewing window between -10 and +10 and -10 and +10. That's standard. If you want to change the viewing window, because some of the problems in the software in my math lab, it will ask you to change. It will give you the viewing window. So let's say we want to only see between -4 and 4, and with a scale of 1, and y minimum, let's say between -4 and +6 for whatever reason. And I click on graph again. Is it possible to read the y-intercept from here?
Yeah.
What would you say? 0, 2. Okay. What if I want to? I'm going to change the viewing window to see a little bit more on the right-hand side. So I want x to be, let's say, 12. Go to 12. Let's suppose I want to determine the x-intercept. Can you say what it is, or can we approximate? We are not 100% sure, but it looks like it's 4, 0. Right. So here's a way of determining the x-intercept with the graphing calculator. I'm going to show this to you again, when we need it. So second and calc. What do you think I'm going to choose from all these?
Intersect.
Intersect is 1, but then I need 2 functions. So the 0 of the function is the best. The 0 of the function, I'm going to write this down because this is very important. I want you to remember, moving forward, x-intercept is identical with the 0 of a function. Of course, 0 or zeros, right? X-intercept or x-intercept. So it's the same. We're looking for the same thing, but we use two different terminologies. So it's either the x-intercept or x-intercepts that we are looking for, or the zeros of the function. Please remember, we need this in the next chapters. So going back, I have the option of determining the 0. So I'm going to say, well, go to 0, enter. Now the graphing calculator is asking me for a territory. Where do I look for your 0? I see the 0 is somewhere around 4. It may not be exactly 4, I don't know, maybe a little bit before or a little bit after. But I know I can count, right? I see this is 1, 2, and this is my scale. My scale was 1. So this is 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to give the calculator where to look for it. I'm going to say, look for the x-intercept between 3 and 5. So it says left bound, 3, enter. It's asking me now for right bound. I'm going to say 5. Okay, I don't want to guess. I'm just going to press enter again, and it gives me the 0 to be 4, and the y value, of course, 0. So 4, 0 is the x-intercept. So I think we have enough about this section right now, and moving forward, you find anything in my math lab about this, please bring it to class and I'll explain it. Okay. So in the next section, I would like to solve a few linear equations with you and a few rational equations. So that's section 1.2. Linear and rational equations. Section 1.2. Section 1.1 was just graphing calculator, just using the graphing calculator. But again, as I said, is the temperature better? I forgot to ask. Oh, okay, sure. Thank you. Okay, so let's look at, let's say problem 12. If you want to choose, I'll be more than happy to do the problem you want to choose. 2 minus quantity 7x plus 5 equals 13 minus 3x. Okay. What type of equation is it? It's always very important, like we had the strategy with what to do, how to do it, blah, 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 blah. Again, of course, we need to know what we are solving. Hopefully, if we identify it correctly, then we will be able to solve it correctly. So this is a linear equation right here. Linear, right? It's a linear equation. It has the left-hand side, it has the equal symbol, and it has the right-hand side. Every time we see a left, the equal symbol, and the right, we know this is an equation. And we are asked to solve it. What will be the first step, please, towards solving this equation? Yes, excellent. So we have to eliminate grouping symbols. We have to eliminate the grouping symbols first. Okay, so we have to distribute -1. So then 2, right? It's -1 or the negative symbol, whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So 2 minus. Very good. Good. Next step is we have to combine like terms on both sides. Do not move terms around just yet. Combine like terms. Combine like terms. And put everything in descending order, of course. -7x minus 3 equals -3x plus 13. You don't really have to rearrange that one that was on the right-hand side. It's still the same thing. Okay, then, at this step, I prefer, it's up to you. This is not mandatory, but I prefer the variable on the left-hand side. I recommend, this is not mandatory, recommendation. Keep variable on the left-hand side. Keep variable on the left-hand side. In general. Okay. Ready? It means that I have to move this term to this side, and I have to move this term to this side, because I have to separate. Exactly. So I add 3x. It was negative on this side. It will become positive on this side. So this is -4x. This -3 was negative, right? On the left-hand side, I move it to the other side, it becomes positive. I recommend instead of writing, which is not wrong, I recommend instead of writing plus, plus, minus, minus, just think in terms of moving terms from one side to the other and simply changing their sign. It's up to you. Any method is acceptable, as long as it's legitimate, right? So finally, we divide both sides by? Very good. So then x equals? That's it. This is how we solve a linear equation. Are we okay with this? Yes? Any questions on linear equations? Done? Okay. Moving on to rational equations. So these are way more sophisticated, a different, completely different type of, so let's say 46 on page 120. So 5 divided by x plus 2 plus 3 divided by x minus 2 equals 12 divided by x plus 2, x minus 2. what type of equation is it? Yes, why is it rational? Why do we call it rational? And before you say anything, I just want to show you one more example. That was the example. So, is this a rational equation? Correct. You're right. It's not. This is a linear equation. It does not have x in the denominator or the variable. This is simply a linear equation. It does not have x in the denominator. This one indeed is a rational because it has x in the denominator. Perfect. So I'm going to copy it one more time. You don't have to. Okay, so let's take a look at this and refresh our memory on something again, very important. Remember to create that notebook with all the important information, everything that you learned that you didn't know, everything that you would like to remember for a test, for a final exam. Please create that. One of your colleagues asked me about index cards. Fine, whatever works for you. It doesn't matter. But please accumulate all the important information in one spot so you can review it quickly. Okay, ready? I'm going to ask you how much is 0 divided by 5. Perfect. I'm going to ask you how much is 5 divided by 0. Correct. Very good. Undefined. We like the word called undefined, but what it really means is it doesn't exist. We don't have a number. There is no number that replaces this. Okay? So division by 0 is undefined, so please write this down. Note, division by 0 is undefined. Please stop. Please, please. So division by 0 is undefined. It's okay if you say it does not exist, if you don't want to use this fancy word, undefined. It's okay if you want to say there is no number that replaces it. It's fine too, but we really like to use undefined. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our equation, and I'm going to ask you, for what value of x you think that this expression, this fraction, will be undefined? Who said that? I think I heard it. Maybe not. Maybe it's my imagination. Perfect. So we say that when x equals -2, 5 divided by x plus 2 is undefined. Do we all agree with that? Is it a yes or is it a no?
Yes.
Do we all see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So then for this equation, I have to start by writing that x cannot be -2. For the second fraction, what will you say x could not be? Excellent. So these are called restrictions on the variable. And you could say, wait a minute. When you solved this equation a minute ago, you didn't write any restrictions. How come that I did not need to write restrictions on a linear equation? There is no x in the denominator. There is no danger. Excellent. Good. So then 5 divided by x plus 2 plus 3 divided by x minus 2. I'm going to bring this term over to the other side. What do I need to do then? When I move a term from one side to the other. Excellent. But it's an equation, and if I forget about the right-hand side, I change it into an expression. So what is left on the right-hand side? I move this term here. What is left? Of course, 0. Yes. Our next step is to find the least common denominator. So let's review what we did so far. This is a rational equation. We stated the restrictions. That's our next step. And then we moved to the right-hand fraction. In this case, it was 1. One fraction, we move it to the left. We change its sign. And the next step is to find the least common denominator. Can anyone give us the least common denominator on this? Just 1 second, don't forget what you want to ask. So I wrote a long fraction line. I copied the equal symbol, and I copied the right-hand side, because if I forget this, the whole thing collapses. Yes, please.
Oh, I was trying to answer your question.
Yes, please do. I'm sorry.
Is it x plus 2 x minus 2?
Excellent. All different factors have to be in the LCD. Excellent. Well done. Whoever taught you the previous class did a very good job. And you too. Perfect. Yes. Next step. Do we agree with x plus 2 times x minus 2? Everyone? Okay. So now here's my next question. X plus 2 in the denominator was multiplied by what to get this product?
X minus 2.
So the numerator has to be multiplied by x minus 2. I cannot just multiply the denominator by x minus 2 because I want to without multiplying the numerator by x minus 2. That's not allowed. Okay, x minus 2 was multiplied by...
X plus 2.
Correct. So I cannot just take the liberty of multiplying the numerator, the denominator by x plus 2, and not doing the same thing to the numerator. I changed the fraction. Good. So now let's look at the last one. X plus 2 times x minus 2. What did we multiply it by to get this? Right, or nothing. 1 or nothing. It's the same. It's identical. We are not multiplying it by anything. Is that okay? Perfect. So now, can anyone give me the numerator? Yes, please.
Like the whole thing?
Not calculated, just for everyone to see how we get this.
Okay. 5x minus 10
Perfect.
plus 3x plus 6 minus 2.
Excellent. Well done. Okay, let's let this sink in for a moment. Do we understand what just happened? Yes, everyone? Yes, we distributed. So we multiplied 5 by x and 5 by negative 2, 3 by x and 3 by 2, and then negative 1 times 12 times 1. Is that okay with everyone? Yes? So what is the next step then? Combine like terms. So let's combine like terms. So in descending order, obviously, 8x, and then negative 4 minus 12, negative 16. Do we all agree with this? What do I write on the right-hand side? Perfect. Here's a question before we write it. Don't write it just yet. Is 5 the same thing with 5 over 1? Is 10 the same thing with 10 over 1? Is 0 the same with 0 over 1?
Yeah.
Perfect. Please write 0 over 1. Okay, now we take a moment to discuss one concept and then we'll come back. Anyone remembers what this is called? Let me explain what it is first. Just one fraction, nothing else attached, the equal symbol. One fraction, nothing else attached. One fraction, the equal symbol, and one fraction. Excellent. Extremely important concept, again for your notebook. Why is this so important? Because only in a proportion we can apply something. What is that something? Excellent. Only in a proportion we can cross multiply. So this product equals this product. So AD equals BC, only in a proportion. Now let's go back to our problem. Did we change this whole thing into a proportion or not? One fraction equal symbol, one fraction. Now we are allowed to do this. So how much is 8x minus 16 times 1? Equals, so this is this part, equals. How much is ba 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 times 0?
0.
Excellent. So initially we were solving a rational equation. What is it now? It collapsed into a linear. Very good. Good. I know how to solve this. I have to move negative 16. So it's 8x equals 16, and I have to by, and I get, what is this? Here's what it is. I got the solution to be x equals 2, but I have to look back at my work. My work said, no way. If your final answer is negative 2 or 2, you cannot accept it. And I'm going to say the equation has
No question.
very good. The equation has no solutions. That's the reason why we state the restrictions from the very beginning of a rational equation. So I don't have to worry about it and go back and check. I don't have to check anything. It's among the restrictions. Now, if I get a 2 and positive 5, then I will say 5 works, but 2 doesn't. So this is how we solve rational equations. We have 4 more minutes. We can choose another. We can look at a word problem, whatever we would like to do. But please choose something. Another example or a word problem? Another example, very good. So let's take a look at 48, same page. So I expect, so I don't forget, I expect you to finish the factoring assignment between now and Wednesday. I expect you to finish 1.1 and 1.2. So for Wednesday next week, what is Wednesday next week? Is it a 4th?
Yeah.
Thank you. So factoring assignment 1.1 and 1.2. So here's another equation. We said 48 on page 120. If you find something that we haven't discussed, bring it to class. Either send me an email or take a picture or something. Okay. So let's get this one started. Can anyone help with starting it?
Rational equation.
It is a rational equation. Awesome. The next step.
X can't be 5 or bigger than
Do we all agree with that? Yes? Do we all agree with x cannot be positive or negative 5? Yes or no?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's write it. Good. What will you do next?
move
Yes. And also at the same time factor the denominator. How do we factor the how do we factor the denominator? And what is exactly, and what is left on the right hand side? I have to write something, otherwise I mess up the whole thing.
0.
0 indeed. So we talked about from day 1 about the difference of squares. So how do I factor x squared minus 25?
X plus 5.
Great job. Thank you. Do you want to teach this class? I can sit down and relax. Thank you. Well done. Then we have to do what? We have to find the, yes, which is? Very good. Now I call these adjustments. What is the adjustment for the top of the first, second, and third? Do we all agree with x minus 5 as the top adjustment for the first one? For the second one? And for the last one? 1 or nothing. You don't really have to write anything. Can anyone dictate the numerator?
Plus 2x plus 2.
Do we all agree with these steps? Any questions before we continue? The breaks are at your disposal. If we go too fast, please let me know. If you don't say anything, I'm not going to stand and smile back at you. I want to, but there is no time in this class to smile. Okay, so then, yes, yes, 6x. So this is negative 10 minus 32, so it's going to be minus 42 over x plus 5, x minus 5. And to remind myself of what this is, I will write, yes. And then, and I get 6x minus 42 equals 0. This is linear now. Yes, equals 42, so x equals 7. My only concern is right here. Is 7 among the restrictions? No. Since it's not among the restrictions, I will gladly say